The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. It is Thursday, May 19th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us for our podcast here. We are bringing you all sorts of great coverage today from NORML Show Live headquarters, all sorts of things happening here, and I want to apologize to the folks listening to us live right now. Apparently, we're having some bandwidth issues with Stickam, but we will be recording this, and hopefully it'll be better by the time we play the replay. Try and stay with us. We're trying to fix it during the breaks as well. Let's get right to our engineer, Ganja John, who's hanging out here in the studio as perplexed as I am because we haven't changed a thing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
It is very, very strange, but we will keep up with it and see what we can do to fix it. All sorts of great stuff on the show today, including Steve Caprio, a.k.a. Ominous Words. He's going to be on with us live to debut his song, Hotbox the Planet, which is already doing great on the charts, online music charts, so we will add that to our Toker Tunes resume. And then at half past the hour, we get to speak with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition's Keith King. He was a commander in the U.S. Coast Guard, and he's currently living in the great state of Hawaii. We'll talk to him. And then at 45 past, Terry Joyce brings us our Southern California scene with comedian David Allen Green, who is trying to get healthcare coverage to comedians, which I think is a very, very laudable goal. In hour 2 today, we're going to bring you some videos from NORML TV of Dr. Lester Grinspoon at the NORML National Conference speaking about John Lennon and his first time getting high. We'll also have coverage of Oregon's House Bill 3664, where they're going to be giving testimony today. Jennifer Alexander, a frequent guest on the show, will be presenting some data that I made up some nice charts for. But before we get to all of that, we got to go up to Astoria, Oregon, where we speak to the lovely Cannabis Carrie.
Hi, Russ. Wow, you made some charts, really?
Yeah, me. Can you imagine?
Can't imagine.
Yeah, Jennifer was over here last night, and we put together the presentation. Basically, it's on the law enforcement's use of the Oregon Medical Marijuana Registry data, which they're only supposed to get when they're trying to verify that someone's a patient. But we found in one county, Marion County, where Salem is, the state capital, they had 5 times as many requests as there were patients, and 5 times as many requests as there were drug crimes in that county. And that was just counting requests that happened after hours and on the weekends, because that's all they tally electronically. During the regular working hours, it's all written down by hand, and they don't have a tally of that. So way more inquiries into the law enforcement database than should be necessary. But anyway, Carrie's got our hemp headlines for us right after the break. What do we got in the headlines today?
Well, today we're going to cover a little bit of that in Oregon, how county sheriffs are trying to push their own agendas. Maine got their letter to the prom, we'll call it. And another story about K2 and Spice, but not really. We'll tell you all about that, too.
See, they got so much in the show we can't even get in the time cues. It's just jam-packed today. Stay tuned.
In today's busy world, we're inundated by advertising for all types of pharmaceuticals that come with a laundry list of potential side effects. Shouldn't you have better medical choices? Natural alternatives to pills pushed by Big Pharma? At Alternative Medical Choices, you could choose natural, safe, and effective alternative therapies that are right for your budget without nasty side effects. Cannabis, or marijuana, has been a legal medicine in the Pacific Northwest since 1998. Our doctors will help determine your qualifications for a medical marijuana recommendation in Oregon, no matter where you live. Our massage therapists will ease your aches and stress with soothing hemp seed oil or cannabis-infused massage salves. We also offer acupuncture, Reiki, and other alternative health therapies. Call Alternative Medical Choices in Portland, Oregon at 503-288-5579 or visit our website at www.altmedchoices.com. We specialize in out-of-state recommendations. That's www.altmedchoices.com or call 503-288-5579.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at NORML.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
The Oregon Supreme Court has handed down a ruling in the state that medical marijuana patients do have the right to a concealed weapons permit. The case involved Oregonian medical marijuana patient Cynthia Willis. The retired bus driver was in a battle with her Jackson County sheriff, who tried to take her permit to carry a concealed handgun away from her after she acknowledged in her renewal application that she also had a medical marijuana card. The sheriff in the case, Michael Winters, denied her application on the basis that giving her the concealed weapons permit would violate the Federal Gun Control Act. Now, that was enacted back in 1968 and specifically forbids a person who uses or is addicted to a controlled substance from owning a gun. The sheriff had taken it upon himself to interpret the federal law since he argued that federal law acts trump the state of Oregon's 13-year-old medical marijuana law. The argument from the other side said in this case, state law prevails since a concealed handgun permit just gives a person a legal defense if they are arrested and only applies to concealing a weapon, not actually owning a weapon. Today, the Oregon Supreme Court ruled that Sheriff Winter had no grounds to deny a concealed handgun license to Cynthia Willis or any of the other 40,000 Oregonians with a medical marijuana card solely based on the assumption that they use medical marijuana. The case that landed in the Supreme Court as an appeal from Sheriff Michael Winter included Jackson County Sheriff Rob Gordon and was ruled on behalf of Willis and 4 other cardholders from Jackson County. But it will apply to all medical marijuana card holders in the state of Oregon. You see, this is not the first time this issue has been in an Oregon court. Previously, one of those cardholders from the ruling, Stephen Schwert, had been interviewed by the Oregonian and said in a published interview that he used medical marijuana for debilitating back and knee pain that often prevented him from walking. After that story was published, Washington County denied him a concealed handgun renewal. He had previously sued in 2005 for his right to be a medical marijuana patient and have a concealed gun permit. The lower courts ruled in his favor because a county attorney couldn't prove that he actually owned a gun. His license was later pulled again and again landed in court, where the lower courts ruled again in his favor along with 2 other medical marijuana cardholders. In fact, these 2 Oregon sheriffs that have been fighting to deny concealed gun permits to medical marijuana cardholders have lost every legal battle in circuit courts and the Oregon Court of Appeals on the guns rights issue. Cynthia Willis was granted a concealed permits weapon by Sheriff Winters while he pursued the appeal to the Supreme Court. Willis told reporters now after the ruling that she feels like a real human being, not just a source of revenue to her county. Leland Berger, who represented Willis and the other patients from Washington County, said that the ruling would have an impact on the continuing national debate over making marijuana legal to treat medical conditions. A lawyer for the Washington County Sheriff's Department, Elmer Dickens, said that they did get the clarification they were looking for on whether to follow federal law or state law on the issue, and he does not anticipate an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court because the ruling focused so tightly on state law, adding, quote, "Every sheriff now knows what the rules are, and we got what we needed." So congratulations to Lee Berger and all the Oregon medical marijuana patients. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is one of the things that NORML does. Of course, Leland Berger, longtime member of the NORML Legal Committee, was also assisted on this case by John Lucy, another member of the NORML Legal Committee, great friend to the show. And it just goes to show that, people, I think there's this, crazy paranoid conspiracy theory out there, NORML wants to keep it illegal so those defense lawyers can make all this money. And they don't think about the guys like Leland Berger and John Lucy who are taking these cases of people whose rights are being trampled on and taking them all the way to the Oregon Supreme Court and setting a precedent here in this state that, yes, indeed, you don't have to choose between your medicine and your Second Amendment rights. I'm so glad we got this case today. This week we've had some pretty lousy decisions, first from the United States Supreme Court in that Kentucky v. King. And then in hour 2, if I get some time, I've got a little rant on a decision coming out of Indiana, Barnes v. Indiana, which is just stupefying in its ignorance of the Fourth Amendment and our common law protections going all the way back to the Magna Carta. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that in hour 2.
And this is just a really short note. I'm feeling like these announcements have become like waiting to get some kind of bad news from an STD clinic. But the state of Maine has now received their letter from the feds. Hate to see them get left out. And from Maine's top federal prosecutor to let them know the state's medical marijuana law violates federal law. Duh. And that the Justice Department is reserving their right to prosecute Maine citizens who violate federal law even if they have the blessing of the state. Similar to the letters received in Washington, California, Vermont, Arizona, Rhode Island, and Colorado, the letter said that they will prosecute those who distribute the substance. Maine is one of 5 states that addresses dispensing of medical marijuana on their law books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Did you realize that the federal government thinks marijuana is illegal? Wow, thanks for the note. Glad we got that letter in there. Yeah, this is just another one of those intimidation tactics, one of these letters going out to all the medical marijuana states, and it's most specifically going against Maine having a dispensary system, one that's being licensed by the state. That's what the feds are really afraid of here. They've said time and time again, we don't go after sick people. We don't go after the sick people and their providers. No, what they want to go after here is the business. They want to make sure that we don't establish any safe, regulated way of getting medical marijuana to patients, because if we do that, we might figure out that, hey, there could be a safe, regulated way to get medical marijuana, or to get marijuana itself to healthy people as well. And we might realize that, having it controlled in stores where people check kids for their IDs, and we have clerks going through training, and we have licensing and procedures and regulations that check to see whether the marijuana is of variable potency and whether it's been prepared correctly, if it's got molds, if it's, got different levels of THC and CBD. Maybe that would be a better system than letting criminals keep a hold of it and having people wonder what's in their bag and ending up with, situations like we see that grit weed where they put little shavings of glass in the weed to weigh it down, and all sorts of terrible fertilizers and pesticides they might put on the medicine for people. Come on, this is what it's really about, is to make sure that we can't see the viability of a well-regulated legal system of marijuana, period. And number 2, that those businesses don't start gaining any political power to run opponents against the status quo. That's what's going on in Maine and all of these U.S. attorney letters.
And a story that's been making its rounds in the media comes to us from Florida. And frankly, it's a pleasant side note to all the K2 spice and bath salt stories that we have to cover from time to time here on The Stash. Randy Heen, a store owner in Pinellas Park, Florida, said that since the Florida legislature has banned synthetic marijuana, he is providing his customers with the opportunity to buy Lazy Cakes and Mary J's relaxation brownies. He tells media outlets that if you can't get marijuana, this is the next best thing. Lazy Cakes contain melatonin, a nutritional supplement that is unscheduled, so it is legal in all 50 states. It is based on a brain hormone that controls your body's sleep cycle. The packaging of Mary J's relaxation brownies tells the consumer to take a half a brownie 2 times a day. Each brownie or lazy cake contain 8 milligrams of melatonin, or about 2 to 3 times the typical melatonin supplement. Oh, wait a minute. Could you just take melatonin? Okay, never mind. Florida Representative Darrell Rawson, who sponsored the bill that outlawed synthetic marijuana in his state, said that he now believes legislation isn't the answer for the never-ending cycle between the latest designer high and lawmakers. He said as long as they pass laws, there will be people who make new drugs and create new things. But he did say that he was concerned about the packaging of Lazy Cakes and Mary J's relaxation brownies, saying that they do appeal to kids. The Lazy Cakes packaging shows a square little cartoon cake looking very relaxed. Representative Rosen said it looked like a spaced-out chocolate SpongeBob SquarePants, adding that it is being sold, that what is being sold is actually the high. Lazy Cakes isn't a product only found in Florida. Some towns in Massachusetts are proposing a ban on the packaged confections after a couple of children ate them and were hospitalized. Since Lazy Cakes are marketed as a dietary supplement, they do not need FDA approval. Lawmakers in Florida are looking into the package claims to see if they can find a reason to ban them. The Lazy Cakes box says prominently, relaxation baked in. Store owner Hines said he expects the product to be banned in the future due to the similar effects of marijuana. I think he only said that to increase his sales. Russ?
It could be. I like the laid-back chocolate SpongeBob SquarePants analogy. I think that worked really well. This is something that always confuses me too, is when we start talking about these dietary supplements from the FDA that are outside of FDA approval. They have a little warning on them that says not intended to diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease, right? And they'll throw any number of herbs in there or vitamins or supplements and make all sorts of astounding claims. I mean, you've seen them. This particular pill will burn fat off your body. This particular pill will make your penis longer. This particular pill will give you unlimited energy. This particular pill will help you fall asleep. We make all these crazy claims, and then this little tiny subtext, not intended to cure any diseases. It's a supplement. It doesn't follow under the FDA's rules. And why is it that all these things of varying potencies and strength and dubious safety, I mean, things that you could actually overdose on and have some severe problems, why do those slip under the FDA's radar here and not cause any problems? But marijuana, something that's been, 5,000 years of proven history, no human overdoses, been used medicinally and spiritually and recreationally for years, well established in our culture, exhibited safety that's not demonstrated by any drug that's been passing FDA trials, much less these stimulants and these supplements here that don't seem to get the FDA's attention. Why is marijuana so singled out? Well, again, it's about the high. It's not so much what it does or how dangerous it is, as it is the fact that it gets you high. And I often posit this little thought experiment. What if we came up with some sort of drug that got you high like marijuana, but had absolutely zero side effects, proven, zero side effects, gave you a 15-minute high, and then it was completely done, didn't stay in your body, no impairing effects, didn't have any addiction potential, absolutely safe, but get you high for 15 minutes. Would it be illegal? You bet it would be illegal. It's because some people just don't like the idea of other people artificially having any sort of joy or enjoyment in their life. It always comes right back to that. And until we address the fact that people have a moral and human right to adjust their own consciousness, so long as they don't harm others, there will always be another K2, there will always be another Spice, there will always be another Lazy Cakes ready to fulfill that demand.
We don't have another story. Right?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. All right.
It was there. It was ready.
It was there. It was just chilling out like the Lazy Cakes, man. Yeah. No, I wanted to report to folks a quick update on the raids yesterday. If you were with us in after hour two, I broke in because we got some Facebook posts from folks that we were familiar with, Jerry Laberty and Jessica Nuna out there at the Medical Herb Providers in Spokane, Washington. We had spoken to them and gone to their live cam when the first raids happened in Spokane a few weeks ago. Well, apparently yesterday, 10 to 12 officers from the Spokane Police Department, accompanied by one agent who identified himself as DEA, did raid the MHP Medical Herb Providers on Freya Street in Spokane, Washington. According to Jerry, he called us in the third hour, actually. We broke into Irie Island Hours replay, and he called in and described the scene. He said they took everything, took the computers, took all of their inventory, and just basically another smash and grab type robbery. No charges. Nobody's been arrested in connection to any of these raids. They had warrants, and apparently MHP wasn't the only one that have gotten raided yesterday, but I don't have any confirmation on that. There are some news stories. I wasn't able to get to them before press time today, but just to reiterate, new raids once again in Spokane, Washington, Medical Herb Providers on Freya Street. We spoke to Jerry Laberty yesterday, and we'll get more updates from Jerry and his crew out there. He said they are going to be starting a new group in response to this, the Spokane United Collectives I can't remember IT. There was some part for the IT part of it, but basically their acronym was Suck It, SUCIT. They were saying it's going to be Suck It. So I don't know how well that will turn out, but we will keep you posted on what's going on with the DEA interference with providers in Spokane, Washington.
We definitely need a break.
Definitely time for a break. So much live stuff going on. When we come back, we're going to be with Steve Caprio, a.k.a. Ominous Words, and his new tune, Hotbox the Planet. Stay tuned.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? Reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would send you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
NORML Show Live reminds you to never consent to a search. If you're holding and you consent, in most states you will be arrested immediately and you will go to jail. If you don't consent to a search, police may try to intimidate you by threatening to bring in drug-sniffing dogs or try to fool you by saying things will go easier if you consent. Yeah, easier for them, sure. Stand your ground, refuse the search, and ask the officer if you're free to go. If they still detain you and eventually find your contraband, you'll be no more busted than if you had allowed the search. But by refusing the search, your attorney has a chance to win your acquittal before a judge. If you consent to the search, your attorney's hands are tied. You can find a list of NORML Legal Committee attorneys specializing in marijuana cases by visiting the Find a Lawyer link at norml.org.
Been busted? Need a lawyer? Call the NORML Legal Committee for an attorney near you. Find one at norml.org. Remember, attorneys are cheaper than a lifelong criminal drug record.
It's that freedom. I'm free to Pop Pass Records.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Groovin' Thursday. Our salute to all the dopest beats and killer rhymes that we find in the best of rap, hip-hop, soul, R&B, and funk. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, folks, welcome to our Groovin' Thursday. Tonight, we get the luxury of speaking to the artist who will be providing our tune for today. Steve Caprio, a.k.a. Ominous Words, is on the line with us. Steve, how you doing?
Other ways to get the live show, they could go to our stash page.
All right, let's go out to Steve Caprio, who's out there with Cannabis Carry on the line. Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Glad to have you here. And we're just telling everyone that we're got your tune coming up here, Hotbox the Planet. And according to the email I got from you, it's been just blowing up the online charts. Tell folks a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, me, Thoughts of Risen, and Ariano did the track produced by LD, and it's been on the top 25 online radio charts for the last 5 weeks, and it's at number 18 right now. So. It's doing pretty good. People seem to like it, man.
Right on. Well, I got a picture that I pulled up from your Facebook page, and I see you out there rocking the mic, wearing the classic NORML T-shirt. Always been a big supporter of legalization?
Yeah, always. Keith Strop was on my last album, and I've been, doing a lot of stuff. Kelly, Maggie, Joplin, Cannabis Revival. I played out there all the way from, do all kinds of stuff, man, and been trying to do my part for a while now.
Yeah, how has marijuana infused and informed your music? I mean, how long do you go back with the weed, and how much is it a part of your life and your music?
Yeah, well, other than just talking about it, I've been an advocate for over 15 years. I've smoked it. Hemp seed oil, I take it every morning, and marijuana itself, my shoes are made out of hemp. It plays a big role in my life. More than just the whole. And that's why I try to get rid of that whole smoke weed, eat Cheetos, and watch TV. You know, there's a bigger part to it than all the what people think there is, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And where are you calling us from, by the way?
Fontana out here in California.
All right, so you're in California now. Are you a 215 recommendation holder?
No. Well, I have the medical card through Riverside over there with Lanny Swerdlow and them, the TACF medical clinic.
Right on. And Lanny also hosts Marijuana Compassion and Common Sense, which we replay here on the NORML Network. Great guy. We love having him on the show. So, sounds like, you've been down with the medical marijuana movement and marijuana legalization for a long time. Tell people how they can find out more about your song and your albums and, just get information about you.
Yeah, you can go to ominouswords.net, OMINOUS words.net. I also own a record label, Paper Rock Scissors, PRSrecords.com, Akil from Jurassic 5, Eternal, Killer Bees, all kinds of people on there, supporting the cause. And, or you can go to ziplockmusic.com and download, the compilations, free music, all kinds of stuff. I'm currently working on a new CD, and it's going to be free. I'm just going to let it out there, trying to make some noise and educate people and have fun at the same time.
All right, so we got Ominous Words coming up here. The song is Hotbox the Planet. Tell people about the song before we roll it.
It's trying to take it to the next level and go, worldly with it, worldwide, and just have fun. Ariana did the hook. He talks about that and our influences in rock and roll and different things. And then, me and Max, we come together and talk about our daily lives, how like in California, skateboarding, snowboarding, it's huge. But you throw in some, weed, and all of a sudden people start it's a whole different image, though it's the same thing while they're drinking, whether it be their coffee, their booze, whatever it is, thinking they're better than you, even though, it's just an ignorant mind state that needs to change, on all the different levels. All
right. Well, we appreciate that, Steve. Steve Caprio, a.k.a. Ominous Words. This is Thoughts Arising with Ominous Words, and the song is Hotbox the Planet. Thanks for joining us here on NORML Show Live, and good luck to you.
All right. Thanks.
We smoke for breakfast. Blunts for breakfast. The planet. Non-stop. Blunts for breakfast. The planet.
Take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now the music's all over the map. Why? Because we are the movement. We took a little bit of soul with rock and roll. Now the music's all over the globe. Because we are the movement.
Yo, it's like blunts for breakfast, like an early Xmas. Step into a mind, coincide, ill sentence structure. Yeah. Sticky like resin glands on top of these harness hands. Perpetual plans expand, the movement is here. It's always been sitting just in the clean. I let it all begin, and as that smoke draws near, I cast it all with wind. Spinning out my cycle like cyclonic sin. This song is wind for sun, the starboard's empty. Call me overrated, I go down like Jack Dempsey. Flexing over rhymes while the earth's singing gently, and I'm steady writing time while the gods got plenty. Surprised when the power stole wings when they sent me, but I'm high as mountain gods, so I speak residently. Saying U to the N to the I-T-E, smoking T to the H to the third I-C.
Take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now the music's all over the map. Why? Because we are the movement. We took a little bit of soul with rock and roll. Now the music's all over the globe. Because we are the movement.
Stoned is what I am, high is what I get. Gonna hotbox the planet like fuck it, keep it twisted. Still trucking cause it's 420 somewhere. 420 constant is change, and change has two sides. Four minds had to collide for this to thrive. Like water, soil, a seed in sunshine. I write rhymes and unwind like roots do. Attitudes can destroy or boost you. I wanna cruise through every day.
Say thoughts it wasn't sick, man. Verbal pandemic. Incubate the mind, reawaken the present. Now crash conflict, little A bouncing B. And the system may have got them, but I'm swelled like the breeze. Non-stop. Element imperial juggernaut, still sipping Kool-Aid just a touch, man. Bitter hot topic, slit wrist, it's gold and I'm gone. Visions of the Venu, cause my soul is like raw.
Take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now the music's all over the map. Why? Because we are the movement. rules, man. We took a little bit of soul with rock and roll. Now the music's all over the globe. Because we are the rules, man.
I'm far out, like a 70s poster. Gonna leave a mark like a glass without a coaster. Smoke rings, try to cope with whatever life brings. Pro-life, whether or not it stings. Skunk stink, I'm neck deep, lack sleep. Ear on street, here to speak, unbiased. I'm never quiet, verbal riot, saying for something. I'm here for my rights, and I brought my own bag. Throwing some good times, and nobody'll get mad. I'm getting taxed for my thoughts. In tune with the world, so I never watch clocks. In SoCal, if you skate and ride, they watch. Throwing some nugs, they gawk and call cops while they sip on bullshit. We smoke blunts for breakfast, fuck your bagel, 7 pie, I'm able. Ain't the dopest, but you notice my focus and understand my angle. I'm forever one sign, still putting products on the table.
We took a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now the music's all over the map. Why? Because we are the rules, man. We took a little bit of soul with rock and roll. Now the music's all over the globe. Because we are the rules, man.
Blunts for breakfast. You sent instruction. Blunts for breakfast. Non-stop.
Blunts for breakfast.
You want a copy of that song for your iPod? Check out the Daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.normal.org and choosing Media, and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
One of the most disturbing elements of the war on marijuana is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows firsthand the futility of the drug war and reaches out to the community and to current law enforcement to end our war on drugs through legalization. It's time now to speak to one such officer in our continuing look at law enforcement against prohibition.
All right, I want to give big thanks to our guest now, Keith King, who is joining us. He was scheduled for last Thursday, and of course I was sick last Thursday, so he was so gracious to reschedule. Thank you, Keith, for being here on the show.
That's all right. I've been sick all my life, my friend.
Oh, so this doesn't get any better, you're telling me?
Okay, however you wish to interpret it.
All right. Well, Keith, of course, is a new speaker for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and his background, he's a United States Coast Guard commander, retired. Tell us about your service in the Coast Guard.
Well, I'll go back before that. I started out in Nantucket Island, Massachusetts. I was a waterman all my life, and I enlisted in the Coast Guard in 1960. This, of course, was prior to the so-called war on drugs.
Right.
The only time we came across drugs was during recreational boardings by chance. We didn't run any interdiction patrols or anything else in those days. Then in the late 60s, Richard Milhouse Nixon declared the war on drugs, and he did another thing. He declared that cannabis was to be a Class 1 drug. Amazingly, it dawned on me that opiates were Class 2. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me. Subsequently, I was stationed in Miami in the Rescue Coordination Center, and about 1972, I started to really question what our government was doing. I was still a loyal soldier. I did my job. In those days, it was primarily loads of marijuana coming up from Jamaica or stuff from Colombia. Occasionally, we'd come across cocaine, but it was usually multi-ton loads of cannabis and tie sticks, which were cigars that were made from marijuana and laced with hashish. So that was my beginning to question what we were doing.
Right. So you were doing, getting involved in these interdiction efforts, and what I always see is year after year, there's the Coast Guard or the Border Patrol proclaiming their latest 100-ton seizure or 200-ton seizure, but year after year, they're still making seizures. So it doesn't seem like much of a dent is being made in the problem this way.
I would estimate that during that period of time when I was in Miami in the early 70s, if we got 1/10 of what was coming in, I would be surprised. Mm-hmm. We put a lot of pressure in the Straits of Florida, the Straits of Yucatan, and ran interdiction patrols. Now, the Coast Guard at this point, our primary bread and butter was search and rescue.
Right.
We had a lot of other missions, and all of a sudden we had a new mission and no money. But we did it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that the focus on drug interdiction by the Coast Guard has diverted funding and resources away from search and rescue to the point where it may have endangered lives?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. The Coast Guard, to their credit, treats search and rescue as job one.
Good. Good. Glad to hear that. So now you're in Hawaii. You did your service in Miami, but you also did 13 years of service in Hawaii in the judiciary and enforcement branches of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. And we often talk about that agency with respect to the growing of cannabis on the Big Island and other islands in Hawaii, and a lot of people that are growing that medically. Give us some perspective on how you see that situation unfolding in Hawaii with their medical cannabis, because one of the problems they have is getting it from island to island, being that, there's no way to drive it from place to place.
Well, under the law, it would appear to me that a legitimate medical cannabis patient can transfer up to 3 ounces island to island. However, we had an individual that was just convicted for less than 3 ounces because TSA illegally detained him at an airport. They have no authority to go after drugs. Their only job is to keep our aircraft safe.
Right.
And the local police arrested this individual. He was charged, and the judge found, amazingly to me, that transportation was considered use. But it gets worse than that. Back in the day here in Hawaii, we had an operation called Operation Green Harvest, where they were flying helicopters around to locate cannabis patches. And I have no problem with the enforcement. What I had a problem with was they were flying within 100 feet of occupied dwellings. And at that point, if they have a catastrophic failure, they're going to crash. It's that simple.
Sure. Well, and not to mention, the noise and the terrorism aspect of that. I mean, when you have a helicopter flying low over your house, it's very frightening experience to the citizens down there.
Well, let me explain something to you. A little anecdote, if you got a minute.
Sure.
And one day I was home from work. I was ill, and helicopters kept flying through my living room. And I got up and I went and checked, and here's a helicopter on the back edge of my property, which is about 200 feet from my house. They were below 30 feet.
Wow.
Now, I know what goes on in my neighborhood. There was nothing back there. And I went and grabbed a brand new video camera that I just purchased, and I went out and I wanted to document this thing on film. Well, I saw the crewman talk on the IC, and this frustrated ex-Vietnam combat pilot spun that thing on its side and was actually sucking leaves off a tree in my backyard.
Whoa.
So I immediately called the police. I have a distinctive voice, and I know all of the police. I've worked with them closely, road patrols, ran traffic patrols with them. And, of course, I was identified immediately. I had no problem with that. But I told them, if you ever do this again, I'm going to put you out of business. I'm on your side, but doggone it, this isn't right. Well, I went to work the next day, and my buddy down the street asked me, did they find your patch? I says, what the hell are you talking about? He said, well, first there was a police helicopter came by. Well, it was a rented helicopter. They don't have their own helicopters. And then there were two military helicopters flying all over your property. I said, really? So that day I took all the potted plants. I don't raise pot. I've never, my history.
Yeah. According to this, the only pot you ever saw was what you seized when you were in the Coast Guard.
Yes, sir. So I went out and I took all my potted plants and I nailed down a blue tarp, and put them over them and weighted it down with concrete block. The next day they were here flying, trying to raise the tarp and find out what I was hiding.
That's what was going on. Okay. Wow. We're speaking with Keith King, a retired Coast Guard commander who's currently living in Hawaii and is a new speaker for law enforcement against prohibition, which, of course, the motto of, we see on all their T-shirts is cops say legalize drugs, ask me why. So let's do that. Why do you think we should legalize drugs?
Well, my doubts about this started with cannabis. And I started looking at this, and I realized that up until the late early 1900s, all drugs in this country were legal.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an opium problem in California, in San Francisco specifically. And as long as it involved the Chinese laborers, nobody got concerned. But when the white residents started going to opium dens, we passed the Hartley Law. Mm-hmm. And opium was made illegal. And it's been a downhill slide ever since. Now, initially, I thought, we really ought to legalize cannabis. I've been involved in arrests, and people on PCP, LSD, cocaine are dangerous. You nab a cannabis user, and he goes, you got me, bro. And he puts his hands behind his back and says, okay, let's go away. Wow. And I'm going, why are we persecuting these people?
Mm-hmm.
And so my philosophy then changed quite a bit. First, I was looking at cannabis. Now I believe that all drugs should be legalized. Why do we hand control to foreign drug cartels and organized crime in this country and let them operate free of taxation? It's the only business in the country that we don't tax.
Yeah, really.
This is a no-brainer, man.
Yeah, incredibly so. And it's so frustrating to see this. It seems as almost that they somehow believe that by making it illegal, it will go away.
Well, unfortunately, there's a byproduct to the prohibition, and that is we've corrupted whole agencies. And by that, I mean the police seize a certain amount of drug, whatever it is, and they report to DEA how much they seized that year. They get a kickback based on that. So there's an incentive to lie like hell.
Putting it mildly, exactly. You know, Keith, it's so true, and every time we speak to people from LEAP, we hear about that from the inside, and I tell you, we thank you guys so much because your voice as former military, former law enforcement is so strong in this movement, and we appreciate everything you do. We've got to run, but we'd love to have you on the show again sometime if you'd ever like to be on.
That would be fine by me.
All right. Thank you. Keith King, former U.S. Coast Guard, retired and speaker for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. When we come back, we're going to get to the Southern California scene with Terry Joyce and David Allen Green.
76% of Americans no longer support arresting and jailing marijuana smokers, and nearly as many support the medical patients having access to medical marijuana. And over 80% of our citizens now believe the war on drugs is an ineffective failure. So the question is, when will the government's misguided war on adult marijuana smokers finally end? When? Simple. When you and your like-minded friends, family, and coworkers get involved with an organization such as the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. My name is Keith Stropp, and I founded the organization in 1970. Contact us at NORML, toll-free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's up-to-date webpage at www.norml.org.
Want to legalize marijuana? Prove it. Join NORML today at NORML.org, and your donation will help us spread the growing truth about cannabis. Free speech ain't free, you know.
Free the ganja tree, it's the healing of the nation. Free the Cali weed, good for meditation. Free the pot smokers, they not delight. Lighting up the chalice, they keep no malice. Free the marijuana, come on, say. Free the marijuana, hear me say. Free the marijuana. The marijuana.
Weed.
That's Ruby Valley, hooey-ha.
Weed.
Where any office boy or young mechanic.
Now it's time for a report from the epicenter of American cannabis culture with our Southern California correspondent. You know her from ComedyNation.com and her appearance as a finalist on Season 1 of NBC's Last Comic Standing. It's our friend, cannabis comedian and marijuana activist, the lovely and talented Terry Joyce.
Oh, hello, Terry Joyce. How are you today?
I am doing really good. How are you doing?
You know, I totally spaced and messed up your guest name today because I was thinking of David Allen Greer, the comedian. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
He's a funny guy. Funny guy, and I totally messed that up. I've been saying David Allen Green all day today, and I want to apologize right off the bat that I messed that up. I'm so sorry, but Terry, give us a clue here who's joining us today so I don't mess up the name any further.
Well, who's joining us today is quite a comedian. He spent some time in England. Did a show, lived there, did a show, created the Laughter Foundation, which is a foundation that helps with healthcare for stand-up comedians. And he is, a cannabis supporter and, had experiences and has a little bit of insight of how it's handled in England. And, he's just an all-around talented, funny guy. And I like to welcome Stephen Allen Green.
Hello, hi.
Hey, all right, Stephen Allen Green.
Hey. Live, I tell you.
You're live and direct, absolutely. Stephen Allen Green, thanks for being here on the show. And, interesting that you come back from Britain and seeing what's going on there as far as the cannabis scene goes. We have a colleague, Cannabis Cure UK, who does a show from Surrey, Sussex, England. He just met us in Denver and was telling us how different things are there in Britain, in the UK. Ray, what did you see that was different as far as all that goes?
Well, it is very, very different for a variety of reasons. First of all, as you probably know, the UK has three major pastimes. Football or soccer, as we know it.
Right.
Worshiping their queen.
Right.
And drinking. So
sounds like an afternoon.
Well, yeah, that's just by noon, yeah. And so it's not as much of an issue there. However, when I lived in London, I lived in Notting Hill, which is, we all know from the Julia Roberts film, but really it's a Caribbean area. And what more people smoke over there is hash. And they have classified, you probably know more about this than I do, but they classify their drugs like Class C or Class A or B. Mm-hmm. And I forget, but they recently moved marijuana, cannabis...
back up from C to B, yeah. They made it more strict.
Yeah, because I think the business at the pubs were kind of slowing down. People were just staying home listening to some, reggae and going, what you want to do, mate? You want to go down to the pub? Nah, give me this spiff. Right, mate? Yeah.
Yeah, really. So the pub lobby killed it, huh?
No, I don't think it's killed. I think it'll never die. I mean, look, the thing I can say about it is very simple. That London, as we all know, is one of the creative vortexes of the world. And what happened in the '60s was no accident. It was a convergence, and the best music, and the best comedy, and the best films, and really, really great stuff. And they have a system of tolerance over there that is more about, the understanding. For example, healthcare. I'm not switching this issue, but seriously, but healthcare, which is for comedians, which is my thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I by simply being a legal resident of the UK, I have national health care.
Right.
And what that means is I can go into any hospital or any doctor's office if they are with national health, and most of them are, I think. And basically, it's like I'm covered. I just have to sign something, and then every few months I have to pay £100 or something of tax. But it's just knowing that we're taken care of. It just says, the agenda here is to look after our people and protect them. Right. And all that our country does is protect us under the guise of big war. But they're not taking care of us. They don't seem to. And I think the same philosophy applies to people that want to medicate legally. And end of speech.
I'm glad you brought it to that because, Stephen, this is something, I was just in Austin, Texas, and I came up as a club musician, playing music in clubs. So I sympathize a lot with the plight of stand-up comedians because I imagine the lifestyle is very much the same. Always on the road, always in a hotel room, making, $50 to $100, $200 a night, depending on where you're playing, who you're playing for. So this Laughter Foundation, when I was in Austin, I found out they have this thing called the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, HAM, HAAM. Which was a way of getting health coverage to Austin area musicians who made less than $25,000 a year playing music. Tell us about the Laughter Foundation because it sounds to me a lot the same idea.
Well, as a matter of fact, I contacted but haven't heard back yet from Music Cares, which is the philanthropic wing of the Grammys. Because my idea is simple. I want to insure comedians. And I want comedians to buy a group, because that way no one can be excluded and get the best rates. But the only way to be a group, an insurance group, is to be a business or a guild. So I've stepped my toe over the very dangerous line of people might perceiving me that I'm unionizing, but I'm not. But my goal is to form the Comedians Guild, so that comedians who can prove themselves as, yes, I've worked the road 100 times already, and, I'm still, not just have people just say, hey, I need health insurance. You're funny. Why don't you tell a joke? We'll get a free health insurance.
Right.
Because it's really about, the smartest thing you can do in any business, in my opinion, is is to take care of those who are beneath you, because not beneath beneath me. You know, I wouldn't even speak to them, but you know, I mean, under you.
It's not India. It's not the caste system.
No, well, it's Hollywood. They have their own caste system.
There's that. That's another conversation.
But it is about class. It's all about class, and this is what I see. Why should a successful comedian that has a sitcom and a series and road work not even have to worry about health care when 20 years ago that very comedian was... And the thing is, comedians, you mentioned all these things and you were right about what dangers lurk, but there's something else I think comedians have a little bit more than with musicians. I could be wrong, and that is madness, you know, being a little bit crazy, being a little bit depressed. I mean, we've had famous suicides with comedians and self-destructive behavior and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, so I think my basic philosophy is that the world needs comedy, quality, insightful comedy, the kind of comedy that Terry Joyce does, stuff that really matters to people. And you got to take care of the people that provide that. You got to make them feel like I can be an artist, I can say what I want, I can think what I want. I think people are afraid to think here. That's my theory. All right, good Jews walk into a bar.
There we go. All right, now I always want to give Terry a choice to pipe in here too, because it is the SoCal scene with Terry Joyce. And Terry, you want to add to the discussion?
Well, I just want to add that in response to what Stephen is saying and what he's organizing is I really respect the effort and the consciousness behind what he is choosing to do, because we do need to have health care provided for us, and we do need to learn how to take care of one another. And that transcends into everything that we're doing, and even in terms of the medical marijuana movement or legalization or freedom of what we choose to put into our bodies and how we choose to live our lives. The very first step of that is for us to become compassionate in our hearts, to begin to create things that are taking care of each other. And in that sense, perhaps maybe we have a fighting chance.
Yeah, we got to do it together, and especially when we're talking about artists and comedians and musicians. You know, these are the jobs. You know, I used to say that my healthcare coverage when I was playing music was the don't get sick or injured plan. And I imagine there's a lot of comedians probably under that same plan right now. So how can people get in touch with the Laughter Foundation, help make donations, whatever they can do to help?
Well, thank you. Well, the best way to find out about the Laughter Foundation right now is by going to your local Facebook and punching in the Laughter Foundation. Our website is in construction. Everything's there, and then it'll have a link to the show. Now, the June 11th show, can you give me a minute to talk about that?
Sure, go ahead. About a minute.
Okay. It's a great show. We got great acts, Wendy Liebman, Gary Stockdale, Amy Engelhart, Melinda Hill, Terry Joyce, and we have Bob Petrella, who's been recently featured on 60 Minutes because he's Memory Man. He's one of 7 people in the country to have a special brain. So check it all out. It's June 11th in L.A., and let me also simply say that I am very grateful and proud to have been on your show, and I support what you guys are doing and doing it in a great way. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen Allen Green with the Laughter Foundation. Plug that into Facebook, Laughter Foundation, and get some more information. Help those guys out. Terry Joyce, what you got coming up, baby?
Well, I just want to let the listeners know that I do have a blog now that is coinciding with Hollywood Hempress Hour, and you can check it out at Hollywood Hempress Hour blog site, or HollywoodHempressHour.blogsite.com.
Blogsite.com?
Yes.
All right. HollywoodHempressHour.blogsite.com. That's all the time we got for today, so I want to thank Terry Joyce and Stephen Allen Green for joining us, Keith King for being with us earlier, and Steve Caprio, a.k.a. Ominous Words. We'll have this post up at our blog at stash.normal.org so you can get all the information from all of today's guests. Stay tuned live for Hour 2. We're going to be covering some Normal TV TV Vids with Dr. Lester Grinspoon talking about John Lennon, and coverage of the Oregon House Bill 3664 hearings featuring Jennifer Alexander and some data cooked up by me and some other activists here in Oregon. Plenty more stuff to talk about. Stay tuned for Hour 2. For those of you only listening on the podcast, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. For Kaliko the Intern, Ganja John, and Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Take it on one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.